Ja, hallo ihr Lieben. Wie seid ihr eigentlich auf die Idee gekommen, Ameisen zu halten? Wie habt ihr euch mit dem Hobby schon auseinandergesetzt? Und diese Frage wollen wir auch ein paar bekannten Influencern mal stellen, die schon lange dabei sind, jetzt das Thema Ameisen über YouTube jetzt zu promoten. Und wir haben jetzt zu Gast, also unser Team hat jetzt eine kleine Videokonferenz vorbereitet, wo wir zu Gast einmal den Alexander von Ant Läufer haben und einmal den spanischen YouTuber, das ist der David, der hat den Kanal El Mundus de las Hormigas. Viel Spaß beim Zuschauen.
Welcome, guys. Happy to see you, all of you here. It's great. We start by, something very simple and friendly. Let's introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Alexander, aka Ant Oliver, and I run the YouTube channel Ant Oliver, where like all of you, I show my ants in English, and I've been making videos since 2018.
Okay, super. Who's next?
My turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is David. I'm the creator of the YouTube channel El Mundo de las Hormigas that is based in Spain, Canary Island. I've been here since 2017, so 7 years. Lots.
Hey, not bad, not bad.
I'm Yannick, and I work for Ant Store in mostly online marketing for a couple of years now, and yeah, that's why I'm here.
Guys, you have all in common to be ant keepers, basically. There is kind of magic in it, and we all face some challenge with our colonies, and it's cool just to see a bit like how is first your environment, like how is the ants like in Canary, for example.
Well, we have several ants here in the Canary, common to the Canary Island. The funny thing is that the same species have some difference between it depending of each island. For example, there's a common ant from here that is called Mesomino esperius, so it's a Hasberter ant. And it's in Gran Canaria, they are completely black. Back in Tenerife, they are half red and half black. So we have several species. Another one is a Camponotus rufoglaukus, that is in Gran Canaria is black, but in Tenerife is half red and half black.
Maybe because it's an island, or it's probably the reason why.
I don't know, but they are completely different, yeah. We also have some common species like the ghost ant. What was the name? Tapinoma malocephalum. That ghost ant, very small and transparent. And another one that very common here in gardening houses is the Monomorium pharaonis. That ant destroy everything in their path. You know, we have to take care with our colonies at home with the ant because they destroy all the colonies.
Well, in Denmark, it's a lot of Lasius niger pretty much everywhere. It's very rare to see non-Lasius niger, unless if you go to a forest, you can be lucky and see Formica rufa. That's kind of the two species that dominate Denmark. I've seen Lasius flavus here and there, and once Myrmica rufa, but when you see something that's not Lasius niger, then it's exciting. So that shows what diversity we have here. The Lasius, they just rule the entirety of Denmark. So we have a lot of species, but I haven't seen them yet. So I mean, yeah. Not too many exciting ants to see. Well, Formica rufa are fun to observe in the woods, but generally there's not too much interesting, unless you count Lasius niger as interesting, of course.
You have the problem of winter, I guess. They have a long sleep in winter in Denmark.
I think it's a lot like Germany, like from late, November to February, we have like winter times, but I mean, the winters we haven't really had. I think it's a lot like Germany. We haven't really had proper snow in quite a few years now. We have like 5 centimeters of snow for a few weeks, and then it's just we just sat at like -0 degrees for like half a year or a few months. So not really crazy snow like you see in Sweden and Norway.
Yeah,
Okay.
Definitely pretty much the same like in Germany. Yeah.
That is a perfect transition for you, Yannick. So, how it is in Germany?
Pretty much like in Denmark. We have lots of Lasius niger. Sometimes you see a Formica species, of course, in the forests. But other than that, we're supposed to have about 100 species, a little more. But most ones you don't really see. Sometimes maybe also Camponotus, like Barbaricus, for example. But yeah, that's it.
It's interesting because you all say basically it's easy to observe two species, kind of like actually, and the rest it's hidden
Yeah.
somewhere. So
Yeah, in my toilet. They are hidden in my toilet.
looks like a
Ghost
good
ants
place.
are everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably one of the most invasive species out there. Yeah.
Awful. Because you know what happened with the kind of ant that, for example, I follow them to find where is the hive, but when I close that area, they start and open at other areas around the house. So you have to continue finding where is the hive, you know. Awful.
I received some messages recently from kids, and some of the kids said, I love ants, and I think ants is great, and to keep ants, and I want to become good in it, and I really like it. But they also say, but you know, I don't speak about it to my friends, like if being an ant keeper was to be a freak. How the passion for you started? Like, when was that? When was the beginning for you?
Well, at the beginning when I started YouTube, I really hide it too, for my friends and for family and for everyone, until my channel started to grow and be famous. I didn't say anything. Then now all my friends and my mother, for example, my mother at the beginning was scared about ants. Now is the one who take the leaf from the countryside for my aunts here. So now they are set, but at the beginning was a very difficult thing, because even when I start here in Spain, there was no any information, any channel about it. So it was a very difficult. I was in every news here, like, look at that guy with the ants.
Look at this weirdo with the ants.
Yeah.
I pretty much had a little bit of a passion for ants for many years, and I talked a little bit with my family about it. I have a slight bit of autism, and I remember when I was younger, I really couldn't control when people didn't want to hear about it. I could just speak and speak and speak about, I heard this, and you can do this, and then you can do this, and then you can feed them, and all of this. But I didn't really talk with my friends at school about it, more with my family. But I've been very open about it since I got my first colony, and I've always just said to people, yeah. I mean, I'm not going over and say hello. I keep ants, but if I start to know them and they start to know me, I just kind of yeah. By the way, I make ant videos, stuff like that, and then it's all the same reaction. Like, you should really get like that anteater thing, and show that in a video. I'm like, yeah, great.
Good idea, yeah.
Every time. But yeah, I've always been quite open about it. And I don't know if it's because I don't really mind what people think about me, but I've always just done what I wanted to do.
Well, I started keeping ants actually after I started working here for Ant Store.
Really?
Of course, as a child, that was already kind of interesting for me, but I actually had no clue you could keep them at home. And then I got to Ant Store, as I said, via online marketing, where I was working for before as well. And yeah, then working here just got me interested in keeping them myself, even though we have lots of colonies here. I have some at home now, and yeah.
Were you interested by other insects, by the way, or it was ants, or it was just like generally other insects? I mean, not for Yannick this question because it's as different, but so for you, the other two guys.
I was interested in insects, but like any other kid, you know, you play with the insect when you're a kid, when you're young, but not especially focus on any kind of insect. I was more interested in animals, you know, big animals, dogs, bears, but not especially in ants or other insects.
I don't think I was particularly interested in ants when I was young. I realized at one point when I was on a vacation in Greece, and I fed some ants some chocolate, and I just remembered like seeing the trail of ants going over to this melted chocolate on the side. And I every day I went out, I gave them a little piece of chocolate, and I enjoyed seeing them eat the chocolate. So I think around like when I was 12, I started discovering like not keeping ants, but like how cool ants actually are. But other insects is not something I've ever really cared too much about. Even today, I try keeping like snakes and millipedes and crabs and stuff like that. and mantises. It just doesn't really doesn't vibe with me. I don't see the progression of the colony growing bigger and bigger and bigger. You don't really have that. It's not as fun, I think.
The social aspect, basically.
It's watching like the progress. I mean, you have a mantis. The mantis grows bigger. You feed it, it grows bigger. You feed it, it grows bigger. But with ants, right? You feed it, they grow bigger. You feed. It sounds like the same, but the way you can see like the numbers explode and grow over time. That's I think what sets ants apart from other insects.
Yeah.
When you started your first colony, I'm curious to see, like, you didn't have almost any knowledge, almost certain about it. So 2 questions. How that happened? I'm very curious to see that the first colony, is that a success, not a success? What did you learn? And after, where did you get your knowledge?
Well, I got my knowledge here at Antstore, I guess. And yeah, the first colony I got wasn't that successful. I don't have it anymore. But yeah, afterwards it worked, and now I'm successfully keeping 2 colonies, and yeah.
So at the end it worked pretty good, but the start was complicated. Which colony do you have?
Right now I have Camponotus singularis and Acanthomyrmex thailandensis, so 2 very different species. And I started actually with it's called Meranoplus bicolor. Yeah, pretty interesting ants as well, because they have a quite different behavior. They're quite chilled, I would say. Don't really care about anything outside their enclosure. And yeah.
Okay, and for you guys?
Okay. Well, I have a funny story about that, because when I have 2 different stages. When I was a kid, when I was young, my first contact with ants, I bought, that kind of toys in the toy store for kids, that is with sand for ants. I found one of them, I bought it, and I was very disappointed because the ants were not in the box. There were no ants. I was very disappointed about it. So I tried to find some ants in the nature, just workers. I put it on there. I was watching them digging the tunnels. But I remember, it's a funny thing, that I was in a holiday with my mom and my dad, and I put a lot of sugar because I was in holiday a lot, so say. So worry about ants, I put a lot of sugar to give them food. And when I was reading the instruction in the travel, say, don't put a lot of sugar with the ant because they're gonna eat till dead. When I come back, I found the ant stuck on sugar dead like that. That was my first contact with them. Now I bought a colony for Start the Channel. That was my first colony. It's a Mesor barbarus colony. It was my first one, and still with me. It has 7 years old.
Nice.
So nice. I started basically keeping the ants for my channel.
How many times did you change basically the formicarium, like of the because 7 years is a long time.
With the Mesor, I change it every year. Every year I change it to a bigger one. I have another Mesor colony 1 or 2 years younger than this one, but I keep them in a small formicarium, and they no grow like the biggest one.
I got my first colony from Antstore. I bought a starter kit from Antstore back in back in 2018.
Nice.
And I made the. I started recording them the day I got them. I said to myself, like, I want to document them and see how they develop and all of this. So a simple Laces Nitro and a starter set. I didn't really understand how the starter set worked because I got the sand, and it's like you both have the sand area and like the nesting area on the side where you're supposed to fill sand in the nest area. I just put all the sand in the outwell and put the test tube down there, and I didn't really understand why there was like this backside with holes and stuff like that. And in the end, I moved that colony into a naturalistic setup, and that's when hibernation hit, and I actually stopped keeping ants because it was so boring. Nothing happened, and I actually, in the end, I released them, and I sold, or no, I didn't even sell it. I just threw out all of my ant stuff. And a few months later, summer hit, and I started watching ant videos again. I'm like, I shouldn't have thrown it all out. And then I started keeping ants again. That's actually when I took a trip. I drove from Denmark all the way to Berlin to ant store and picked up a Camponotus vegas and a Mesobarbarus colony. Those have not made it, sadly, because I've made a lot of dumb mistakes in the past. But that's how I started keeping ants. I started in 18, stopped in 18, started in 19 again, and been keeping since.
What type of like mistakes or I mean maybe you don't want to say your mistakes, which I can understand, but then what kind if you don't want to share with us like a mistake, and you
No,
also say...
I can share.
Nice. Okay, and
I've tried to always be very honest in my videos about what I do, because I don't really want to glamour it. Oh, I'm a perfect guy. I do all of this perfect. Nah, I'm dumb. I do dumb stuff. I remember with that latest Niger colony, they had like 15 workers, and I made like this big of a white tongue nest, and I just gave them it, and like, oh, they're gonna move into that now. They didn't. I mean, it was this big of a block, and they had 15 workers or something. But I think my biggest mistake in Ankeeping was actually I lost interest and I gave all the stuff away. I should just have you can feed them and do very minimal stuff to keep them alive. And if I'd just done that, I would still be keeping my first colony, because then a few months later I would have regained my love for the ants and I would still have had them. But I think I've done all of the usual mistakes. I've moved them into way too big of a nest. I've overhydrated the nest they live in. I've fed them too much, fed them too little, fed them wrong things. I've done a lot of things wrong, but I haven't deleted a single video ever on YouTube. Well, except for like videos that don't matter. But all my videos, all my failures are still on YouTube, because I don't want to hide it.
And that's what people like, actually.
And for you, David?
Well, the first mistake I remember was when I bring my first colony, because there was nothing on internet. That's the reason I started my channel on YouTube, because there was nothing. So I decided to put what I was doing it, because I was not a professional. I decided to put what I was doing the Formicarium. And I remember my first mistake was with the Mesobarbarus, because when I bring them home, I put a lot of seeds on there. It was the queen and a few workers, and I put like seeds for a year on the Formicarium. It was full. It was more seeds than ants. Then with the pass of the months and years, I also have mistake about the humidity. Water was the reason that many colonies of mine died about that you learn about it. And for example, in most of my Formicariums, I put water everywhere, with water to prevent that. That was my first mistake, the seeds.
Okay. And Yannick, did you have like a terrible death of a colony?
Well, as I said, my first colony I tried with Meranopus bicolor didn't survive. Actually, until today, I don't really know what went wrong, because it was a naturalistic setup, so a vivarium with lots of soil in it, no ant farm, so I couldn't really see if they are doing well, because I couldn't watch inside the nest. And then someday they simply disappeared, stopped appearing over ground, and yeah, I don't really know what went wrong. I've redone the vivarium afterwards, because I wasn't sure if there was something else in it, maybe, which got in there with the plants. So that was maybe the reason, but I'm not exactly sure until today.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes it's not our fault, because at the beginning we always think it's our fault for everything that happened. And sometimes the ants are not in the good, they are not good, or I think sometimes, or maybe the Formicarium, but sometimes it's not our fault.
Yeah, and especially sometimes it's pretty hard to tell, because there could be many reasons, but unlike with dogs or cats, you can't really tell what is not working or why are they not feeling well or whatever. You can't.
Especially not in a naturalistic setup. There's so many extra things coming along, like dirt mites, soil mites, and all of these different micro life in there.
Yep.
Okay. So I will just drink a bit of water, enjoying this moment. Yeah, that is a bottle typical from Berlin hospital. A
It
real
blurs
one.
out the bottle. Oh
Yeah.
no, it's a background. Oh yeah. I thought it
The
blurred like the
background.
branding.
I thought the same.
That will be perfect, yes?
No ads here.
Yeah.
No ads
No
here.
branding. No branding. Oh, blur it. No.
We come back to the hardcore question. The first question is, how many species of ants do you have? We know for Yannick, so I'll let you guys tell us how many species do you have inside your crazy place, I bet. So who wants to start?
I'm start. I have around 15, I think, around 15 colonies. I have two big ones, very big ones. The meso one was my first one, and the leafcutter ants, Acromyrmex. It has 2 years old, and it's growing a lot. Then I'm gonna read it because there's a lot of colonies, so I have to read it in here.
Nah, you need to remember them in your head.
Yeah, but there's a lot. I want to do it good. I have Mesia nigrocinta, Neoponera picalis, Mesor minor, Camponotus cruentatus, Camponotus mutilaris, Xianbang, Diacama rugosum, Arpegnatus venator. This is one of my favorite, the Dinomyrmex gigas, because
Oh, wow.
it has a high mortality rate. I'm doing it well. It started light eggs, so it's good. Manica rubida, my recent one. Sorry, I'm starting with the Iridomyrmex purpurus.
Nice.
The one from Australia, yeah, the meat ant. I'm starting now with this one because it's an ant that grows fast. So I love the colony that grow fast because I can show it on YouTube, and this is my new project. So most of them, they probably have a lot of them because I have some mesor colonies repeat, but these are my colonies, yeah.
Wow. And do you have like free time?
No. So, actually, I don't go anywhere. I live here. Well, at the moment I bring the leafcutter ants at home, I don't have life. Even if I go to the south of the island or I rent an apartment, I have to come back the day after to feed them because I have to.
Yeah.
I don't like to put leaf for long days because they start to be dry. So I have to continue take care daily about these ants. Yeah, no
And
life.
they are hungry.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. But it's nice because, for example, with this colony, I'm so proud about it. Someone told me it's one of the bigger Acromyrmex colony they seeing, and I'm really happy because it happened the same like with the mesor, with no idea because I have no idea of this kind of ants. I did it well, so I'm very proud with that. With the mesor and the leafcutter ants, my favorite.
I bet, and especially with a big nest, that would be impressive. Like, yeah.
That's why we have them all around house, behind the TV, everywhere.
Yep.
On
Nice.
tubes, everywhere. Yeah.
Perfect. But just for the people who listen to us, in a glass tube, yes, or
Well, yeah. Glass and store tube soup.
they will be freaking out otherwise. I just open the nest and they just go everywhere. And for you, Alex?
Well, since we're cheating, I can also read out my list. I think I have 13 species, but 15 colonies. I've just moved to a new, smaller apartment, so it's way smaller. So I've had to get rid of I sold my Mesobarbarus. I had a big one, and I gave my big Ada Mexicana to the zoo. So I've lost my big colonies. I only have my Nova Mesa remaining. That's on the bigger side. But yeah, I'm currently keeping 2 Camponotus singularis, 2 Manica rubida, Nova Mesa coccarelli, Memesia brevinota, Memesia fulvipes, Memesia pilosula, Polyrhacus dives, Harpegnathus venatus, 2 of them, Paraponera calvata, Octhonctomachus sheffir, and then I have an Octhonctomachus ecryptus. I have no idea how to say that name.
Okay.
Then I have Ophelius maridina, the green weavers, and finally Indomyrmex purpurus as well.
Nice.
Yeah, meat ants for the win. Yeah, I've gone all in on the Australian species this year. I really love my bull ants and also my bullet ants, to be honest. But yeah, surprisingly though, after I gave my leaf cutters to the zoo, I feed all the colonies twice a week. They're all in this heated box here. And I feed them twice a week. I clean them twice a week, and I spend like an hour and maybe 2 hours feeding and cleaning. So I can do all my ant maintenance in 4 hours a week. So even though I have a lot of colonies, it takes 4 hours a week if I really needed to do it fast. But I enjoy it and I don't do it fast.
I do it every day in the morning. I have to do it every day in the morning.
To feed leaves.
No,
or-
not only the leaf, like some cricket to the diacama. Oh, I forgot. I have Polyrhachis cibes, so some cricket here. Some, take care. The water every morning. I have to do the same routine. After the coffee, ants.
And what is the biggest challenge for you, like to keep so many species of ants? Organization, food, or what is supplying?
For me, it's cleaning the big colonies. That's the one thing you can't do fast. You can do feeding, chop, 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 boom. Give them water, give them sugar, fast, fast, fast. But cleaning, sitting there and like it's easy. What I do, I take all of like, if we have the Noah mess out, well, here I take like all the ants in the hand and the trash and just put it in a separate box, and then I take the ants back into the outworld. And compared to all of the other small colonies where you just take the tweezers and just remove the food, the big colonies, that what ruins my day when they need a big clean, because it just takes 10 to 30 minutes to do one colony compared to everything else takes 10 to 30 minutes as well. So yeah.
Okay. And for you, Yannick, actually, I'm curious because you have less colonies, and then for 2 colonies, how long it takes you, like in daily or weekly?
Well, weekly, maybe half an hour, about that. Not much more. It's actually not much maintenance, especially because the Singularis is not that big yet and they grow quite slowly, at least the first couple of years. So it's totally fine. And the Acanthomomex thailandensis, it's a really small colony. It'll stay that size. So yeah, not much to do there. But we'll see in future. Maybe I'll get more colonies, and then it's more work as well, of course.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear also, because I guess the people who ask themselves, should I have a colony? Like listen to you, like, oh my God, 4 hours, and should I really do that?
It's 4 hours a week. Like I like feeding an hour, cleaning an hour, feeding an hour, cleaning an hour. It's not like a lot of time. But can I just ask a question for the ant store guys? How many colonies do you keep, like on display?
In Ant Store, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now in the showroom, we have, I think, 40 colonies, 41, about that. It's 2 big Mesor colonies. It's like 2 Acromyrmex, 2 or 3 Atta. That's of course a lot of work. Those ones. And then we have lots of different Camponotus species, of course. A really big Fulvipilosus, for example. And then Polyrhachis divis, a huge setup. So yeah, that's definitely a full-time job then.
Magic.
That is it's a lot. and a lot of space too.
Definitely, yeah. It has grown a lot also in the last 2 years, I think. When I started here, we had like 15 to 20 colonies on display, and now it's twice as much. But it's really nice to have them here. People are very interested, and it's also, of course, nice because we can take shots of those colonies at any time. Then very different setups as well. So yeah.
Where did you find your ant knowledge, guys? Like I asked the question in the beginning, but that was when you were like beginners. But now, because sometimes I guess, especially if you want to have like more challenging colonies or species, then you need some knowledge. What do you watch? What do you read? Who do you call? It's interesting.
YouTube. One of them. I have so many books, but it's difficult to find books for a specific ant here, the Canary Island, on the bookstores. So when I need to know anything about specific ant, I use YouTube or internet, basically Google, and start to read. Not one place, start to read different, because every ant keeper have different experience, has different, they say, different temperature of humidity, but different ants, even different soil for the same ant. Some of them put the sand, some of them put more humidity in them. So I have to look very carefully and look in some different videos and reading so many articles in Google to take the information. Then I apply my own experience on it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good, but I'll try it.
Yeah, I don't really Google a lot. I think there's a lot of, at least when I started watching YouTube, there was a lot of these YouTubers who went to Google, searched how to take care of this, and then they just said, oh, they need 60 to 80% humidity, they need 20 to 25 degrees, all of this. And they've never kept the species themselves. So what I do now is I find out like who keeps this species successfully, like who keeps Paraponera, the bullet ant, successfully. Okay, these 3 people have all done well. What are they doing? And then I talk with them about it, because the guys with successful colonies, that's the guys who know what to do. But the funny thing is, what I've learned from getting more bullet ants and bull ants and a little bit more expert species of some sort, I keep all my ants exactly the same. All of them exactly the same. Like in this box, it's 26 degrees. I feed them twice a week. I just keep all of the nest nice and humid, and they all grow. I mean, of course, leaf cutters are very different, but like compared to how much stuff you can read online with, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, I just go with the flow, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, at the end, you apply your own experience, and you have to know that every ant keeper live in different country, different temperature, different things, different food. So you have to, for example, the leafcutter ants, I don't have, how do you call that cable for heat? I don't have it, and I don't have for fresh for down the temperature, because I live in a place that is usually 24, 25 degrees. So you apply your own experience in that. Yes, good. That's the better things. That's a better thing to do. Yeah.
So basically, you have to adjust also according to temperature and everything. Like it's your advice is like to take a bit of knowledge, just to not starting with big mistakes, but after you can also go with the flow, kind of.
I think the best thing is to talk with people who are keeping the species successfully. What are they doing? What are their room temperatures like? Maybe it's their native colonies, so how hot is it for them? Rather than just searching and just reading something on Google. I think it's good to like talk with the guys who keeps them.
And you learn, at the moment you are growing a colony, you learn about it. For example, in the leafcutter ants, most of the people put sand or put sands everywhere. I don't do it because I don't like the ants put sand on the nest area and you cannot see the fungus. So I decided from the beginning not put sand. Only at the beginning to grow the fungus, but at the moment the fungus keep their own humidity and temperature. My ant farm have no sand at all. So you start, but you learn. At the moment you are growing a colony, you learn about it and you apply your own experience. That's what I think. Yeah.
And for you, Yannick, where do you find your knowledge?
Well, I have, of course, some coworkers here that are experienced ant keepers, or at least take care of our colonies here in the showroom for quite a while. So I can always ask them. For species we don't keep here and we don't really have that much experience here in-house, I would totally agree with Alexander to try to find someone that has been keeping this species for a while successfully and ask him for tips, because that's definitely the best knowledge you can get, because on the internet you find stuff in any direction pretty much. This can rather confuse you, I think, than help you. So yeah.
In other countries, but here in Spain, most of the ant keeper follow the ant store directories, because in your web you have for each colony everything. And I know most of the ant keeper go to the web and start to see temperature, nest, arena. Yep. Yeah, they read a lot about you. Yeah, I know that.
I mean that's already important information, but there's certain things that you won't find there. So it's always a good start to check our website, of course, to get like the core data. But yeah, if you want to have further knowledge, it's probably best to find someone that has kept them a long time.
Yeah.
And there is also some problems you have to solve if you have kind of a mushroom started to grow and you don't want it or whatever. If you start to have too much humidity, how to clean, how to dry, without damaging the colony. So all of this knowledge is definitely better to ask anyway to some other ant keeper with this experience.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because it gets really specific there, and we simply can't cover that for any ant species out there.
A good example of how the internet can be confusing. Just ask how to treat mites. Like people will say use lemon. Like 90% will say use lemon, and then the 10% who've used lemon will say that the lemon also kills the ants. It kills the mites, but it also kills the ants. It's like, okay, so
I never heard about lemon. Yeah.
no, but so I hear it all the time. Like every time, oh, you gotta put some lemon in there, and then I talk with people who've used that. Oh yeah, the ants they sit on it, but because there's so much, like lemon is something you also use to keep ants away, as a treatment for removing ants. So it removes the mites, but also the ants. So at least that's what again that's also what I've heard. I've never tested lemons because I was recommended not to do it. So here I am saying something that I haven't tested as well. But
another example is also with mites. Some people say simply take something and brush them off the ants. This might work with some species, but for most, definitely not. And if you have a colony of 1,000 ants, you'll be busy brushing your ants for a couple of weeks, I guess.
For the rest of your life.
And if it's like Caribou Diversa, where you can't even pick up the minors, like
yeah,
because they're tiny.
No, that's impossible.
And also, it's something to care about the ants. And you already said, like, okay, I started to film the ants, but why? What was the project? Was it really like film from the beginning? You get the ants to film, or it's more like, okay, now they are there, and I think they are so cool, I want to share. What was the start?
Well,
For me, okay, start, no problem. No, come on.
Well, I got my ants. I watched so many YouTubers like Ants Scandinavia and Ants Canada and all of these, and I was like, oh my God, I can definitely start a YouTube channel and grow a lot of subscribers. I've never done this to earn money, but I was always like, oh yeah, I can definitely be one of the big boys fast. And I remember I got my starter kit from Ant Store, and like I put it in, put the sign in, and I grabbed my phone and I started recording them. Like, oh yeah, this is my first starter kit, and that's still my first video on YouTube. Like, it's literally 5 minutes after I got the colony. All right, time for the first video. All right, let's see. But I think I quickly realized that there's a good reason why some YouTubers have grown big and some have not. And I slowly changed my mind from I want to do this to grow big to I want to grow this because I really enjoy like going back and watching the videos from last year and looking at the comments like, damn, I remember when they were tiny. Like I remember when this was I had this as just one single queen. She came with like 8 workers and they all died. And it was just a single queen, and now they're massive. And I really love rewatching the videos. Like, wow, so much has happened. So I think for me, initially, I wanted to become big famous YouTuber. Then quickly I realized that's not possible. So instead, I just want to do it for my own documentation of my videos, of my ants, sorry.
And for you, David?
Yeah, I was not interested in YouTube at all. I'm an old man. I'm 45 years old. You know, I'm not the kind of these young people that want to be YouTuber. I was thinking YouTube was only for videos, music videos, and that's all, and some information. I remember I bought my first colony, and when I bring at home my colony. Sorry for my English. It's not perfect, but I'm trying to do my best. The first time I bring my colony home, I had a book that I bought with instruction, but I forgot it on the plane. So I look on internet, on YouTube, I found anything. 7 years ago in Spain was anything about ants. So I decided to put 3 videos on YouTube for people who has the same problem as me about a colony, they have no instruction or something. I remember I add 3 videos, the unboxing, how to prepare the ant farm, and how I move the colony, and I leave it there. And I remember like 3 months after, I was sitting on my couch watching TV, and I was receiving a lot of messages. Please do more videos. Please do more videos. And I was thinking, who are these people who's writing me? And suddenly, I start with no people following me, and 3 months after was like 300 1,000 people following me, and whoa. So I decide to start to doing more videos with no experience, but I remember I have to read a lot and do the things well, because there's a fan service behind that. If you do something wrong, they're gonna hate you and blah blah, a lot of things. So that's all. That was my beginning in YouTube. Now I like it. I'm planning to do another channel about it. I don't know, maybe for kids, or I had another one in English, but that was my beginning in YouTube. I was not interested at all on be a YouTuber. Now I am.
Nice.
Cool. And also, guys, the thing is, now you kind of a hub, for other people. Like they can come and ask you a lot of questions. How many people ask you questions a week or something? Is that something you can answer?
No, not at all.
Not at all. You can answer the question, or not at all. There is too much person ask you question.
There are so many people asking me questions every day, every moment, every second, every minute, and not some kind of question that people ask for everything. Most of my questions are like, oh, I move my ants, but they don't move. You are starting. What do you expect? Or I've been 3 days and the ant don't go inside the anthills. A question like that. Most common of them. What I trying to reply always is when people tell me about, oh, my son is very fan from you. Can you make a video to him or something like saying hi? I always do that. But answer the question about keeping. I always do it in YouTube, because by mail, Instagram, or other social media are impossible because I have no time.
I think for me, I've given up on responding. I read pretty much all my comments on at least on some of my. I read a lot of the comments, but I don't respond to many of them. But if people send me a message on Instagram, like a DM, a direct message, then I reply to all of them. I don't get that many. It's a lot up and down, of course. I'm not making many videos at the moment. I'm making very poor videos. I'm not really making my high quality videos because I'm focusing on moving. But I reply to everyone who sends a direct message on Instagram and on Facebook and stuff like that. But the comments I just read through. If it's a super simple question, I answer, or maybe I send a message to Instagram or something. Because the issue with YouTube is also when you reply to a comment, if someone has how do I keep this set up? And then you ask what setup, then it falls under a different category on YouTube, because there's the comments you've replied to and the comments you've not replied to. So when you reply to a comment, it goes in the other group. So you can never really have a conversation, because then you have to go in the other group and then you have to scroll down and find it. And it's way easier just say send a message on Instagram and take it from there. I don't get that many because, well, there's not well, yeah.
So that is your message to YouTube, actually. The message to YouTube is make it simpler to answer comments.
It is simple, but the thing is, when you get I don't know, maybe I get 100 comments a day. So when someone asks something and you reply, it goes into another tab, and then a few hours later you're like, oh, I wonder if he replied. Let me go to the other tab, roll down. Oh, yeah, he replied. All right. But 2 days later, it's just gone. There's too many comments. So yeah, luckily it's under control on Instagram, as long as it's a direct message. It's the same with comments on Instagram and on TikTok and Facebook and all of that. It's too many, but direct message I answer.
But even if you answer them, and if you make up, because what I used to do is make a video when I have a question that is common in a lot of people, I make a video. But even if making the video, the people ask the same question, even in the same video you answer them. So it's impossible, because you answer one, you answer two, even you make a video and they even answer the same question in the video. So impossible.
Yeah.
There's too many people.
Yeah.
What is interesting, it's what kind of questions are coming back? Can you say, what is the hit of this question? You know what I mean? The number one, the number two.
Can you give me ants as a present? That's the first question.
Wow.
People do it for every part of the world. Could you please give me ants? That's the question I have received more. Yeah.
Oh, that's so weird. My top question
Yeah.
is always, what nest should I use? And I'm like, I need more context. What's the colony? It's always just people are like, hey, can you help me choose what nest to use? Well,
But you know
for
what? I have different kind of public because I have a Spanish public or some South American. They are not available to buy ant farm or ants. So the question are about how can I buy an ant farm or how can I buy ants? Because in South America is now is much better after my channel rise. A lot of shop in South America start starting. But at the beginning there was nothing. So the most common question from people from Spain and South America was, how can I get your ants? Give me your ants.
Okay. Interesting. One of the top questions we can ask, it's what's about your future? Like, how do you see your activity, which there is a part of it which is like public. So how do you see, and do you think you can, I don't know, like some collaboration with some institutions or whatever? So how do you see your future, guys?
For me, it's very much a hobby. It's I like a few years ago, I really dreamed of doing this full time and just being a YouTuber and just all day long. But I think I have too much energy to just sit and edit. I of course in real life I'm an electrician, and for me my YouTube my fame, if you say I have 140,000 subscribers, but they all came very shortly, and I went viral and then stopped again, and I just realized it's so unpredictable that I don't think for me, unless I start spending like serious time on it, I don't think there's like a future of doing it full time. So for me, it's just a hobby. I enjoy making videos. I've taken on a lot more of a challenging species this year, like the Myrmecia and the Paraponera clavata and stuff like that. So I think I just want to show like it's not that hard necessarily to keep like the big expert species. It's really not too different from just keeping like Manica rubida. Keeping like a Paraponera clavata is a lot the same as like Manica rubida, like how you keep them. So for me, I just want to show people like I just want to show people it's fun to keep ants.
For me, it's a full-time job. I leave my other job when I'm starting YouTube because I earning enough to live. My future is continuing YouTube till YouTube disappear. I don't know what I'm gonna do when I'm getting old. Maybe I make an avatar of myself by AI and then make a lot of videos, because as long as YouTube is in there, I will continue in there. There are some future projects that I would love to do, for example, with the leafcutter ants, because they're so, how do you say, it's not a museum, it's a park with animals. And I will love to give it to them. At the moment, I cannot taking care more about them because I really want to keep it for myself. I have to do that. But my house is small. But I will love to show some of the colonies in the schools. But that's more in the future. At the moment, I live in YouTube. I have to focus all my time in YouTube. Yeah. And I have an advice for the people, if you let me, I have an advice for the people who want to make a channel about ants in YouTube, that focus at the beginning, because mostly of the people start with ants and they show the ants, but the people don't want to show, the people don't want to watch you if you're not famous. So start from the beginning, start making tutorials, start how to do this, start the videos answering the question the people have about ants, and then when you grow you can show yourself dance and whatever, but at the beginning, and then when you are a famous and channel, focus on your subscriber, because we have we also want more subscriber, so we try to do a better title and a better picture for the videos. But when you are a big channel, you have to focus on your subscriber, because YouTube is only going to recommend the videos to your subscribers, and then after that, if your subscribers watch your video, it's different when the channel is starting, that when the channel is famous. That's my advice to everyone.
Nice.
Okay, then. So do you want to add something, guys, or a topic? Do you see something you want to talk about?
I think my advice for people out there, a lot of people, they like a little bit like myself, they started making videos to get views, And I think if you start like that, you have the wrong motivation. I remember I just got a screenshot from a few years ago when I had like in 1 month I had gained 5 new subscribers. And I remembered back in that time, even though I gained 5 a month, I would be swiping like a few times a day to see, oh, do I have another? Oh, do I have another? Oh, do I have another? Because my priorities were getting more subscribers. Oh, yeah, yeah. And I think that's the wrong. A lot of people start because, oh yeah, I want 1,000 subscribers. I want free stuff from Guy. I want to be sent free ads, free stuff, and all of this. And if that's what you aim for, I don't think you will stand that long, because YouTube is not a fast game. It's like consistency over long periods. Like you just gotta keep making videos, and to keep making videos, you need to enjoy making videos. So I think a lot of people start just because they want to grow big and famous. And I can't say I mean I did it myself, and I think that's why I realized that that's not why you should do it. Because I stopped thinking about all of that, and suddenly I had a few videos going viral, even though now I just had fun. Like today, I just have fun with my videos, and some videos go viral, some videos don't. That doesn't really matter as long as you have fun. For me, at least.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that.
And for you, Yannick, do you have some advice about like end keeping too, or when you want to start, or do you have some?
It's more about informing yourself on the right channels, for example. If you want to start, that's the most important thing, I think. And then especially to inform yourself before you get the colony and not afterwards, because that's what happens often, actually. People get their ants, and then afterwards they ask, how do I keep them? What food do they need? What setup should I get for them? And that's actually the first questions you should answer for yourself when you want to get into ant keeping.
Been there, done that. Okay, so how do I actually keep the species I have in front of me? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, for example, lots of questions we get as well. I have this and this ant species. What do I need? Well, why don't you ask first?
And actually, I have a last question. The thing is, generally, so you can have ants from shops or whatever, but did you just got like ants from natural state? Like, is that something you do?
I heard about people, mostly people here in Spain, that do that, and they sell them but not as a shop. They sell like in groups like Telegrams or that. But I never, because I have the fortune that I have a big channel, and I contact shops and everything, and they are better because they are specialized with the cares, and But I know mostly of the ant keeper here buy the ants not in shops, just in Telegram, and mostly of them complain because the ant coming from Australia and is dead. What do you expect?
Yeah. For me, I think a lot of people in Denmark, I think a lot of people get like Lasius niger in a nuptial flight. I've done that as well. But again, like keeping Lasius niger compared to keeping like just something simple as Mesobarbarus. Mesobarbarus is way more interesting because suddenly they need seeds, they can need heat, they have majors. Then you start keeping like Camponotus nicoborensis and Manica rubida, and you just realize that, holy smokes, there are so many cool species. And what the only thing I've ever seen in Denmark fly is Flavus, Formica rufa, and Lasius niger. And I've been keeping ants since 2018. Like I've never seen a nuptial flight of anything but Formica rufa, Lasius niger, and Lasius flavus in all the years I've been keeping ants in Denmark. So I think that's the Danish ant keeping hobby is not that big, but I think the people who are here, they just buy them online, because even just Manica rubida, who's not native to Denmark, is way more interesting than most Danish species.
To advise for the people who start with keeping ants or YouTube, start with one colony, grow in it, and then buy another colony, because at the beginning, as we always did, we bought a lot of colonies, and that's a mess because you pay attention to them as well as you can. And we have the problem. I saw people that have a lot of colonies together. There's a problem, for example, with the mites, So what is nice is to buy a colony and grow it, and then start with another when the colony have 2 years. That's an advice. And another one for the people who is in YouTube, be yourself. Then if you want, I have videos in YouTube that the ants appear 1 minute and the rest video is me dancing. So be yourself. Be yourself, because when you are yourself, don't copy others. When you are yourself, you start to grow because the people love the ant and love you. So that's my 2 advice for the people.
Thank you for that. Okay. Okay then, guys, I wish you like a lovely day, and hopefully we can do that again in few time, and just enjoy and see how it's going. And if you still like say the same, you know, I'm very curious to see. Maybe you will be like, you know, I just gave away all my colonies, I couldn't anymore. Or on the contrary, okay, now I have 40 colonies. So yeah. I live for my ants, I work for my ants. So could be interesting. So guys, see you soon then.
Thank you all
See
for
you
your
soon,
time.
Bye. Yeah, thank you for a nice
Bye-bye.
afternoon. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for the invite.
And have a nice weekend already.